Okay, so I assume I have just around 20 minutes. So I'll quickly walk you through these slides because this is just about Azure OpenAI, how you can use it, some little details, so you can find it out later once we wrap up the demo. So according to today's topic, which is custom connector and how you can use custom connector, but here I've built something new, which is I'm consuming Azure OpenAI DALL-E service and built a custom connector on top of it and using that in the Power Platform, just like Power Apps or Power Automate, you can use it anywhere. So let me kickstart something about myself. So my name is Shrushti Shah, and I'm a technical consultant at Rapid Circle. Along with that, I'm also a Microsoft MVP, and I speak across various conferences, events. So you can find some good content around Power Platform, Microsoft 365, or Teams. I post it on LinkedIn or my blog site. That's just something short about me. And I'll quickly start with Azure OpenAI, giving some little background around what it is and what kind of service models it provides so that we can understand how I can use Azure OpenAI service, like how I can consume. So quickly starting with what is Azure OpenAI. So it is nothing new. Azure OpenAI is built on top of OpenAI, and what it provides is it provides different kind of models, just like as mentioned, GPT-4, GPT 3.5 Turbo, embeddings model, DALL-E is one such as well. So it provides you the REST APIs for these models. So either you can build machine learning models on top of it, or you can consume this REST APIs in some or the other web application, or just like wrap this APIs as part of custom connector, or do n number of things with just OpenAI. Let me strictly go to how you can get access to Azure OpenAI. So definitely this is right now not available for everyone. It has limited access. You can just, there is this application link probably after the demo, I can post it in the chat so that you can apply and maybe you can get the access and you can start creating the Azure OpenAI service in Azure portal and then just play with the chat playground, which is provided in Azure and ready to consume it in your any of the web application, whichever way you want. Coming to the next, what features Azure OpenAI provides? So as seen in the table, it provides some of the models. So which are these models? These are GPT-4, GPT 3.5 Turbo embeddings. Also, you can do fine tuning. So for fine tuning, there are different type of model types like 0613, Babbage, DaVinci. These are the different fine tuning, which is right now in preview. Pricing, probably you can check it out later. Along with that, if you are not very much into the coding or if you just want to explore Azure OpenAI, then you are all good. You don't need coding experience. Once you create your Azure OpenAI service in Azure portal, you can play this with these models like GPT-3, 3.54, DALL-E, or new, which is speech. You can play with all of these right in the Azure AI Studio. Also, there are a few more features like content filtering. This is the utmost important feature, I would say, because whenever we write prompts or whenever bot replies to us with some of the responses, that is when this is the whole area where we are working with content, right? Either in the form of text or images, etc. So this should be moderated in terms of what kind of language you are using, whether you are allowing some harsh language or not. So all these, if someone is typing in something bad, it should definitely filter and not show such results relevant to that. So content filtering, we have a separate section in Azure. I'll quickly walk you through once I'm done with the slides. Next, difference between Azure OpenAI and OpenAI. This is, I think, one of the biggest question everyone has. What exactly is the difference between AZ, OpenAI, and OpenAI? So as you can see from this slide, Azure OpenAI service gives customers the advanced AI models like OpenAI, GPT-4, Codex, DALL-E, etc. And Azure OpenAI is has co-developed the APIs with OpenAI. Okay, so another big thing is you have your all the security intact, which Azure already provides. So it is co-developed with OpenAI, but yeah, we have Microsoft has added new features, etc. as well. Just like Azure OpenAI also offers you the private networking, regional availability, and obviously responsible AI and content filtering, just like I mentioned. These are the services. I'll skip the slides. I'll come straight to the important factor, which is REST API, which we're dealing with today. So let me come straight to the point about what exactly custom connectors are. Yeah. So when I talk about custom connector, firstly, the question arises, why do I need custom connector? Probably when you go to the Power Platform, you will find more than I don't know the exact figure, but there are many connectors which are available for you to use. Either it can be a SharePoint, Teams, or there are few of the other Gmail, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. All these connectors are already available to you, and there are some other premium connectors as well which you can use, like SQL Server, Azure, etc. So then, what is the need for custom connector? Maybe assume that you have a third you or your organization is a third party has a third party application which is developed, and those connectors are not freely available as part of Microsoft Suite. Then how do you interact with your application and build workflows or applications so that you can give a good UI or automate that? So definitely, if you have a third party application, you would have some APIs like get API, post or delete. Whenever you're working with data, you build some APIs for yourself. So custom connectors is nothing but a wrapper around your APIs. What you can do is you can use that API, wrap it around in the form of connector, and then use it for your automation or applications. So let's just go ahead and see it in action. Okay. Yeah. So I'll be going to the Power Platform from scratch so that you all can relate it with me. Okay, I think this page is very much familiar with everyone. This is the portal make.powerapps.com, and you can go to the custom connectors, or for a just to give you the insights, if you go to the connections, if you create a new connection, and you will find all these connectors with which you can make connection to. So for example, let me just search by SharePoint. Yes, this is already available. And now if I search by some of the different third party like SQL Server, this is the premium one. So I can connect. These connections allows you to connect with these services so that you can directly automate and create or build apps on top of it. But now let's say I have a pet kind of application where I keep an information about all my pets, what breed that those pets are about, and I don't have that application integrated with Microsoft, but I have APIs. What I can do is I can go to the custom connector. This is what I have done for Azure OpenAI. I have built a connector here. I'll just edit it. Now you'll say, how will I get the information about REST APIs for DALL-E? So coming to Azure OpenAI, what you have to do is once you get the access to Azure OpenAI, you go to portal.azure.com. Just search by Azure OpenAI, you will find this, and you are good to create an Azure OpenAI service. So if I create one, all you need is subscription, resource group, region, name, pricing tier. So in the pricing tier, as of now, I can only create a standard one, but once you create it, you will have Azure OpenAI service created for you. So I've already created two of them. So I'll go to the existing one. So this is the custom DALL-E, which I've created. All the details of this Azure OpenAI service, will find it here. These are the keys and endpoint, which is good to consume. Now, this endpoint is not, you can't just pick this endpoint up and just say that, hey, I can use this and I'll get the image, or I'll get the generated image. No, you also have to add some more things at the end of the endpoint. We'll see that. In the model deployments, go to manage deployments. Just giving a minute to load. I just created the service. I haven't created any of the deployments. So whenever I want to chat, or I want to generate an email, I want to just create a LinkedIn post, or any of those generation, or I want to generate an image, I need a deployment for me as well. So how you can do that? You have to create a deployment. This will use that model, just like you see GPT 35, 35 Turbo 16, or Instruct or text embedding. So as of now, as you can see, I've created my DALL-E, and this is using 0914 GPT 35 Turbo Instruct. And now when I go to DALL-E preview, let me just type in just the sample which is already added, Seattle skyline, and hit generate. It will generate an image for me. And then you can also, there are a few options which you can do. You can copy that prompt. You can generate a new image, download it, and view the code or delete it. So we are going to view the code. Let's just hit show code. And here are all the details what you need to create a custom connector. So I'll go to JSON. So this is it. This is my endpoint and this is the body, but the endpoint, this is just the host. What exactly we are doing is we are generating an image. So those all things queries are added along with the API version. What I'm going to use, not this one, but this one to generate an image for me. I also have the key, which is definitely needed. So there are two ways by which you can go ahead and use this DALL-E. One is a HTTP connector in your Power Platform, but I would not recommend you to use that. The best way is to wrap your APIs and create a custom connector and then use it. So just to create an image, what all you need? A prompt, definitely, because you have to say what kind of image you want to generate, how many number of images you want to generate, and the size. So let's just go back to the custom connector. It is a very simple four-step process. One is you have to give general information, which is what is the icon for your custom connector. So now when I go to the flows, just to show you an example, okay, I will create a new instant cloud flow. Just okay. Now here, whatever you see are the connectors. These are built. Some are built-in, standard, premium, custom. These icons which you see and the name, exactly this we are doing it here while we are creating our own custom connector. You can keep your sample icon or whatever your organization icon, etc. Icon background color description. This is an image generator custom connector for me. What kind of schema are you using for your endpoint? Definitely HTTPS, because that is the most it is the encrypted version and also secured. So I'll go with HTTPS. Next is host. Now, where will I get this information from? Again, go back to your Azure OpenAI service. You will find the host here, custom.dalle.openai.com. You don't have to add HTTPS because that is the scheme and the base URL. Now, once you are done with the generic information, next is how are you going to authenticate your API? Definitely, there are n number of authentication. Here, if I click on edit, you will see these are the supported authentications, no authentication, basic authentication key, and OAuth 2.0. But as you just saw in that DALL-E, we have a key which we can use it. So I went ahead and I selected the API key. Next, where do I want this API key to be part of? Obviously in the header. So whenever you add a post call, there is an endpoint, body, and header. In the header, you add your API key and content type, how you want your content to be generated as. So I've just given some basic information. The name is API key, where it should be located, header. Once that is done, now we have to define our connector. So here, there are two important steps. First, you have to analyze whatever you are generating is a trigger or an action. So as part of Power Platform, if you are creating a trigger, then it will sit here. If you're creating action, it will sit here, and each of that entity will be different. So I've created two actions. One is DALL-E generate image. I'll tell you why I've created two. I've consumed DALL-E 2. Hence, I've created two actions. One is it will provide me with the operation ID, and the other is it will generate the image using the operation ID. So this documentation is already available in Microsoft Doc. Probably I'll show at the end of the demo where the APIs are and what more you can do with the APIs. So as of now, this is just the normal information about my action. That is, it is DALL-E image generator. It will fetch the image. Visibility, none, because I don't want this to be visible. Here comes the request. So this is the exact endpoint which I picked up from here. You can see this, and to more elaborate, this is the, I have already added it in that deck, but maybe I'll come to it. I'll post it, the link from where I picked it up. So if you can see in the here, OpenAI images generation submit. So once I hit this, it will provide me with some details. And along with that, I have to add API version, which API version I'm using. Content type, it will be application slash JSON. So once you are done with that, you just have to add the default value. If you want your end user to add it, you just can give required yes and let your end users add it. Type, it is string, and because I don't have any multiple choices, so it is just disabled. Coming back, API version I've added similarly here, and I've default added this value. Coming back again, body. This is the utmost important part. In the body, definitely body is required when you're making a post call. Visibility is none. There are three parameters which I'm expecting from the user. One is the number of images. Default, I've kept it one. it should be of type integer as per the API documentation. Values you can keep as a drop down choice for your users to select. Similarly, prompt, definitely this won't have any default value. It is required and it is of type string. Next is the size. So what is the size of your image? So you just give some choices and your user can select it. But by default, I gave it 1024 cross 1024. Once I've done this, next step is AI plugin. This is the newly introduced one. So what AI plugin does is, if you want to use this connector as part of your AI plugins in the Copilot Studio, you can configure it. I haven't configured this as of now, but once you configure this, you are good to use this AI plugin in your Copilot Studio as well as a separate connector. Code, if you want to add extra additional code so that you just make your responses and requests more secured and etc. So you can do it as well, but I haven't done anything here. Next, test. So now, if I want to test this, I haven't added the API key yet, but when you hit or when you save it, then you can just update the API key. It will ask you to add an API key. Once that is done, you can easily test this. Now let me just add Seattle skyline, just a small example, which is in my head right now. I'll test the operation. And you see, it provided me with the response, but it is saying not performing. But, sorry, not running. So this is running because I've got the status 202. Why this status is not running? Because I've just generated the operation ID. It hasn't generated the image yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this up. I've created the another action for which I have to go to the general definition. This is the separate action, and it is just a get call. It is using the operation ID to get the generated image. Again, I have done nothing. It just expects an operation ID, API version, which is hard-coded given default, content type application / JSON. Now I can just go ahead and test this, and I'll put the operation ID, test the operation, and it gives me the blob URL. Let's just pick this up, paste it. Oops. Yeah. And it generates an image of Seattle skyline. So how did I made use of this custom connector is I created an educational art application. Just a second. This is the app. If I just go to get started, these are some of the information about what image generation is, the API details. So this is what I did, two-step process. You have to request a generated image and get the generated image. These are the two APIs. One is post call and the other is get call, with some of the post call with body and key, get call with just with the operation ID, which is generated from the previous step. Example, I am not going to use that. Design your own art. So these are some of the arts which I just gave sample prompts, and I'm going to design a futuristic city with flying cars and robots. And I'll hit generate image using DALL-E 2. And this is exactly consuming the custom connector. I'll show it once it has generated. It just takes some time to load. Yes. So because it was for kids, so you can see this is the futuristic city with flying cars. You can tweak in and make your prompts more better. This is just the sample which I've added. Also, you can just pull in anything and you can just generate images. Similarly, how I used it, just to show you, this is nothing which you can't do. Okay. So this is the exact custom connector, and the action which I'm using is generating image, and I'm passing all the required body parameters, saving that in saving the URL, and just using the image and just pasting use that variable here. So it has that exact blob URL which we just saw. So this is how I consumed DALL-E 2 model, and you can use it in a number of ways just to generate, not just generate or design art, but more specifically for your marketing or generating more good designs, etc. You can use the same in your Power Automates to automate something as well. This is just one example, but you can do a lot more with Azure OpenAI. DALL-E 2 is just one model. There are more text generation, summarize, generating email, etc. Similarly, if you want to do any of those stuff, everything is right here in Azure AI. All you have to do is just you have to get that code, endpoint, and key, and you're good to go. So just before I close, yes. So this is exactly what we did. All the prompts, response, how you will be getting. The second step was a get call, and we got the image URL. Because I just added one as a parameter, I only want one image. Hence, it generates one URL. If you would have added two, three, five, it would have generated those number of images for you. You can also, yes, the important step, you can also do one more thing, which is delete a generated image from the server. So by default, whenever, so just like I created an image, what this Azure API does is it will definitely delete the image from the server after some specific hours. But if you really want to delete it just right now from the server, then you just have to create this another action, which will be holding the delete or delete type of API, and then you can just pass in the information as operation ID, as we just did in the last step, and it will delete it from the server right away. This was the demo which I already covered, and which I was talking about. You can do more lot of things with Azure OpenAI, and one such part is text generation, which is already part of AI Builder. I won't go in much depth because I think I've already covered my time. But these are the important learning paths from which you can get the DALL-E related information or API related information, which I've used and custom connectors as well. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. And if you have any queries, I am open.